Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me on another video. As you guys can tell from the thumbnail, today we're going to be talking about fragrances that my husband would prefer I not wear. So if you are interested in seeing what perfumes he is not that into, then keep on watching. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Oshumare. On this channel, I talk about all things smell goods. It is so nice to meet you. And if you are a returning viewer, hey, it is so good to see you. All right, y'all, so I thought today's video will be kind of fun and like a different perspective from a man, because I know we love to see videos about what men really like on women. But if you're like me, I'm also curious to know what fragrances don't men like. So all the fragrances that I have in front of me today are fragrances that my husband has in some way, shape, or form let me know that he just is not really into. And the first fragrance that he is not really into is Zadig and Voltaire's This Is Her. Y'all, I was really shocked about this fragrance. I thought that he would be into this because it's got like whipped cream in here and vanilla, and it's a very lactonic fragrance. And sometimes a fragrance that is lactonic and has like that milkiness to it, it can kind of turn people off. And that's exactly what this one did for him. So y'all, when I got this fragrance delivered to my door, I like was so excited to open up the package. I opened it, I sprayed it myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this smells so good. It's so different. It smells like nothing else in my collection. And I just knew that he was gonna like it. And usually what I do when I get a new fragrance is I asked my man, like, hey, what do you think about this? So I sprayed my wrist, I went up to him and I'm like, babe, what do you think about this? And y'all, he smells it on me, he stops and he goes, I think you have way better perfumes than that upstairs. So when he said that, I'm thinking like, okay, well, he didn't say like flat out he doesn't like it. He just says he thinks I have better fragrances. So because he didn't flat out say that he didn't like it, I asked him like, okay, like, so do you like it or is it you do not like it? And he's like, I don't think it's bad, but I think that I've smelled way better perfumes in your collection. So I kind of got the hint that he was not into it. So a lot of times when my husband doesn't seem to like something, I try to like trick him and like, you know, mix it with something else, layer it with a body splash or another perfume or a body oil, just to see if he all of a sudden will start to like it. And anytime I tried to layer this with something, he still would pick this fragrance out and he just wasn't a fan. So after he said he didn't like this, I start kind of doing some research and looking at the different notes. And I think what it is that he doesn't like is like the musky, woody type of fragrances. So there is cashmere wood in here, which is like this musky note, but then you also have chestnut. And I just think that the chestnut mixed with cashmere was just throwing him all the way off, and it's like this whipped cream and vanilla. But to his nose, he wasn't picking up any of that whipped cream and that vanilla. And I asked him like, well, what does it smell like to you? And he said it just kind of smelled like peppery. So I'm not sure if it was the cashmere woods in here that he wasn't liking or if it was the chestnut, but either way, my husband is not a fan of Zadig and Voltaire's This Is Her. All right, y'all, so this next fragrance is a hard no for my husband. From the first time that he smelled this, it didn't matter if it was the opening, the dry down, a couple of days later mixed with something else, he just does not like this fragrance whatsoever. And it's funny because he gifted this to me when it first came out. He like works right next to a Sephora and he brought it home to me. And every time I smell this, I remember opening it up with him for the first time. And I remember my reaction and his reaction. And my reaction changed over time, but his has remained the same. And the fragrance that I am talking about is Fenty by Fenty, y'all. He cannot stand this fragrance whatsoever. And I think it's because it's got this like mix of like blueberry and geranium, but it smells like there's kind of like incense. Well, I asked him like, what do you pick up from this fragrance that you really don't like? And he said it smells like just like old burning incense. I'm like, oh man, like you don't get the blueberry or any of the other note, and he doesn't get anything but just like incense. I can see him getting like some type of incense note in here, but there actually is no incense in here. What I think he's picking up on is the geranium, because geranium kind of has this like green undertoneness to it. And I think the mix of the geranium with the musk and the patchouli, he's just not a fan of. And it seems like a lot of men really aren't the biggest fans of musky, patchouli, like green type of notes. Some men are into that, but my husband just is not one of those. And this is just way too out there and complex for him. And I think if you are not used to complex fragrances, then it will easily turn you off. But a lot of times, at least in my experience, complex is definitely not a turn on for my husband. So unfortunately, Fenty by Fenty is not a favorite of his. I do still enjoy this fragrance, however, so I do wear it, but I just don't wear it when he's around. Okay, you guys, so this next fragrance, it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit because I really enjoy this fragrance. And this brand kind of opened my eyes to all the other fragrance houses out there that I had no idea about. So this one will always be really special to me. But to my husband, it is a little obnoxious, and I'm talking about Montale's Intense Cafe, y'all. He does not like when I wear this. I mean, he doesn't think that it stinks, but I think that for him, I mean, y'all, he doesn't think, oh, I just accidentally squirted a little bit and it smells so good in here. But for him, he doesn't think that this smells bad, but whenever I wear it, he's just like, oh, that is so intense. And that's not really the type of reaction that I want. Like, I want it to be like a good intensity. If he's like, oh, baby, that's good, then I'm like, okay. But if he's like, that's really intense and just kind of like gives me a face like that, then I'm like, oh. And girl, listen, I'm not here to tell you don't wear something just because your man, your husband, your whatever doesn't like it. But for me, if I put a fragrance on that my husband is not really into and he thinks it doesn't smell the best, I don't want to be walking around smelling like a skunk to him. If he thinks that I'm not smelling that good, then for me, it just kind of puts a damper on whatever fragrance that is. Will I get rid of it? No, but I'm probably just not gonna wear it as much. So for Intense Montale, all he's getting is a blast of that oud and the coffee. And he's not really picking up on the roses in here like I'm picking up the roses and the vanilla. And obviously it is called Intense Cafe, so it is very, very strong, but I feel like for him, I think it's just way too in your face. It's just doing too much. And he hasn't said flat out that he doesn't like this, but he has said that he prefers that I not wear this. So I feel like that's kind of like the same thing, especially because every time I wear it, I get the same exact reaction from him, which is that it's so intense. So he is not a fan of Montale's Intense Cafe at all. So this next fragrance, y'all, is a fragrance that every single time I have him smell it, I say, do you like this? And he actually says no. He says nothing else, no other words. He doesn't, you know, like make a face or anything. It's just like as soon as he smells it and I'm like, do you like this? He's like, no. Every single time, whether we're at home, we're in Sephora, we're out and about, he does not like this whatsoever. And clearly I like this because this bottle is empty. And I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to the top, y'all, but this is Dolce & Gabbana's Original Light Blue. I love this, as y'all see. It's pretty much gone. I just was keeping this so I could do this video and show you guys. I do have a backup of this. That's how much I like it, but I don't know what it is in here, but whatever it is, he is just not the biggest fan. And y'all, to be quite honest, when he and I first started dating and I found out he didn't like this fragrance, I kind of thought it was funny and I didn't really mind he didn't like it because way back in the day, y'all, I used to have this long-term boyfriend in high school who ended up cheating on me with this little scallywag that was giving it up and I wasn't giving it up, right? And apparently word on the street was that she always wore this fragrance. And so anytime that I would smell this fragrance, I would always think about that little hoe running after my boyfriend, right? And so I was just kind of like, I had mixed emotions with this fragrance because of that memory. And now because that's just like a funny memory, I actually do like this fragrance now. So the fact that my husband doesn't like this fragrance, it just kind of gives him like some extra points to me in my head, but whatever, that's beside the point. So anyway, my husband's probably gonna think I'm crazy for sharing that story, but I had to tell y'all because listen, y'all my people. So I think what it is in this fragrance is that this is like a very clean, crisp fragrance, but it's also very green. And like I told y'all, I really don't think that my husband likes woody, musky, or green leaning fragrances. So he's just not a fan of this one. And the specific note that's in here, I think that he's picking up is the cedar because there's cedar listed in the top as well as in the base. And I just think that that's just too much. And then it's also some bamboo in here and that is just throwing him all the way off. Also, bamboo is in a lot of man fragrances. So yeah, I think that this one may just lean a little too masculine for his taste. However, he does like the newest version of this one that I do have. And I think he likes that one because of the peach note that's added to it. But this one is a hard no for him. Once again, this is Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue, the original. And y'all, the last fragrance that my husband is really not into, this one kind of hurts my feelings because I really like this one. And this is also another fragrance that I added to my collection when I was like getting into like all the ouds and whatnot. But this fragrance is by Maison Lamcome and this is Oud Bouquet. And I'm just so sad that he doesn't like this one, because this one is just like such a beast mode, beautiful fragrance to me, but it's just too much for him. For him, he thinks this fragrance is just way too beast mode, way too strong. It smells spicy to him, as a lot of ouds do smell spicy to a lot of people, but I think the mix of this with the Gaiac wood is what stands out to his nose, whereas to my nose, I get a blast of the oud and the praline and the vanilla, but he doesn't get that. And y'all, every single time I spray myself with this, he goes, And it's not like a, ooh, like what you got on, it's like a, why you wearing that? You know your man, you know what he likes, you know what he's not really into. It's too much oud. The oud is ouding too much for his taste. But what I will say about this fragrance is that when I mix it with Vanilla 28, he does like it. I think I wore this like on our anniversary last year or on his birthday, one of those big dates, and he thought I smelled really good. But if I wear this by itself, he can't get with it. To me, I think this is such a boss chick, bold, gorgeous fragrance, but for him as well as my brother, they just think that it's just they don't know what they're smelling. When I'm like, can you point out one thing? All he says he gets is like just spices. Now, if I'm being honest, I kind of already knew when I got this fragrance that this was gonna be one that he wasn't really into, because this is already kind of like a hit or a miss for a lot of people. This is one of those fragrances that you cannot just blind buy. It's not a safe blind buy whatsoever. I actually did blind buy this fragrance, and it did take me a while to kind of appreciate it for what it was. And I think that the complexity of it is beautiful. But for my husband as well as my brother, this ain't it. All right, you guys, so that brings us to the end of today's video. So those are the 5 fragrances that my husband is just not feeling, y'all. He don't like them, and it hurts my feelings, but what you gonna do? I'm still gonna keep them in my collection. And I'm curious to know, do y'all spoos like these fragrances that I mentioned, or are they not feeling some of these as well? I hope that you guys had fun hanging out with me today, and if you did like today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe to my channel before you leave. And as usual, take care of yourself. God bless you all. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.